Tensions between China and Taiwan at an all-time high.
We need to fly our planes in force through China's air defense zone.
Our best opportunity to deter China is by arming Taiwan and arming ourselves now before they think about launching an invasion.
Let's talk about Taiwan, or to be more precise, the Taiwan Strait, a strait that in recent years has never seen peace on its own. It's been a few years since the name Taiwan, and the tensions surrounding this point on the globe have always been at the forefront of world media. Therefore, when it comes to Taiwan and its past crises, present and future, the differences between the United States and China also come into view before our eyes. The differences that have deep-seated roots and reasons spanning more than half a century. If Xi Jinping, the president of China, were to declare war on Taiwan, similar to Vladimir Putin under the pretext of defending his country's core interests, what could possibly happen? China sees Taiwan as a separate province that will eventually come under the control of Beijing. According to Xi Jinping, the reunification with Taiwan must be fulfilled, even though the use of force to achieve this goal has not been ruled out. Therefore, if the military option is on the table, what would be the time frame for such an attack? Can China, Taiwan, the United States and its allies take actions to avoid this war? If the answer is yes, what is necessary to prevent escalating tensions in the Taiwan Strait? Taiwan is an island located approximately 160 kilometers off the southeast coast of China, forming part of what is colloquially known as the First Island Chain, which includes countries mostly allied with and friendly to the United States. This island has been the home of various indigenous tribes for centuries. Historical sources indicate that Taiwan came under the complete control of the Chinese Empire for the first time in the 17th century. After the Qing Empire's defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War, Taiwan became a Japanese colony in 1895. Later, in 1945, after Japan's defeat in World War II, China took possession of the island when a nationalist government led by General Chiang Kai-shek was in power. When the communists emerged victorious in 1949, General Chiang and what remained of his nationalist party, known as the Kuomintang KMT, fled to Taiwan. They governed the island for several decades, calling it the Republic of China, ROC. The Communist Party of China, citing this historical background, considers Taiwan part of its territory. However, Taiwanese argue that they are not part of the modern and present-day Chinese government established for the first time in 1911, or the People's Republic of China founded during Mao's era in 1949. Today, only 12 countries, plus the Vatican, officially recognize Taiwan. China, as a wealthy and powerful nation, attempts to pressure various countries not to recognize or support Taiwan. The majority of Taiwan's population, representing over 60% of the island's 24 million people, identify themselves simply as Taiwanese and have no interest in returning to what is colloquially referred to as the Motherland. This percentage is more than 3 times higher than in 1992, and conversely, only 2% identify themselves as Chinese, which is 25% lower than 3 decades ago. Taiwan, with its constitution and elected democratic leadership, distinguishes itself from mainland China. Until 2027, Taiwan will face its most dangerous and concerning 5 years under the leadership of Xi Jinping. While China's military power is on the rise, the ability of the US military to defend Taiwan is also in doubt. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, the armed branch of the Communist Party of China and the principal military force of the People's Republic of China, has the world's second-largest defense budget. In 2022, China's military expenditures exceeded $292 billion, constituting 13% of the world's total defense spending. Since Xi Jinping assumed power about a decade ago, China's military has undergone revitalization. China's defense industry now possesses the technology and production capabilities to manufacture advanced weaponry and equipment. According to Global Firepower, as of April 2023, China has more than 763 million personnel, along with 3,304 aircraft, 5,000 main battle tanks, and 61 submarines for military operations. China has taken preemptive measures to protect itself against potential economic sanctions similar to those imposed on Russia. They have sold foreign assets, delisted Chinese companies from US stock exchanges, reduced their dependence on US technology, and expanded their own satellite navigation system by increasing strategic reserves of microchips. Unlike Vladimir Putin, China carefully evaluates its own strength, the power of the United States in the Western Pacific, and Taiwan's defense capabilities before taking any military action against Taiwan. The three-sided military balance favors China, as Taiwan cannot independently defend itself and the United States does not have absolute military superiority in the region. China currently possesses various military capabilities, including command, control, communications, surveillance, and identification in the Taiwan Strait, which are essential for success in any conflict. Meanwhile, China's formidable Dongfeng missiles, a collection of supersonic ballistic missiles capable of engaging targets at short, medium, and even intercontinental ranges, pose a significant threat to U.S. aircraft carriers in the Asia-Pacific region. The Chinese Navy currently has 2 aircraft carriers and 61 submarines. However, the United States, with 11 aircraft carriers and 64 submarines, maintains a clear advantage. Additionally, China mass-produces guided missile destroyers, unmanned submarines, and patrol vessels, leading to a significant numerical superiority in naval, air, and ground forces. On the other side of this crisis is Taiwan. Taiwanese may not have the same determination for military resistance as Ukrainians. According to a survey, 70% of the Taiwanese population is willing to personally fight or support family members in legitimate defense. Nevertheless, the military capability gap between China and Taiwan may be even greater than the gap between Russia and Ukraine during the widespread invasion by the Kremlin last year. Geographically, the Taiwan Strait, with a width of over 180 kilometers, is acting as a major obstacle for China. However, China can transport its forces by helicopter or aircraft. If a secure sea supply chain is not available, Taiwan will be unable to receive arms from abroad. In 2023, Taiwan's government, acknowledging military deficiencies, significantly increased its defense spending. $18.3 billion US, or 2.4% of its GDP, was allocated to the military. The country began constructing anti-submarine warfare ships and focused on the unmanned aircraft industry. Taiwan's military enhancement creates conditions for potential continued military assistance from the United States and other countries. The third side of this war is the United States. Overall, the military power of the United States far exceeds that of China, but not necessarily in the Western Pacific. The US lags behind China in shipbuilding, creating a significant military power gap. However, the United States has a substantial lead in the development of military aircraft, and it is unlikely that China can close this technological gap. Nevertheless, China holds numerical superiority in the Western Pacific. The arms sales to Taiwan by different US administrations have been estimated by the Council on Foreign Relations. Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama sold approximately $16 billion US and $14 billion US worth of weapons to Taiwan during their respective terms. Donald Trump set a record with $18 billion in arms sales during his 4-year term. Joe Biden has sold approximately $3.5 billion in arms to Taiwan so far. There are 3 possible scenarios for China's takeover of Taiwan. China can directly launch its forces through air, land, and sea in a swift attack to coerce the West into accepting the fait accompli. The second option is a complete military blockade leading to the closure of Taiwan's ports. The third option is a partial blockade of some vital Taiwanese ports, which can later include a ban on foreign ships carrying energy or cargo. In any case, such a blockade can threaten Taiwan's stability. In 2021, Taiwan was dependent on imports for 98% of its domestic energy consumption, posing a significant vulnerability. Additionally, such a blockade can complicate U.S. military intervention.
You entrust me with the presidency. I will not let that happen.
Efforts to prevent war have
word.
always continued. Compared to China and Taiwan, the United States can be considered as a third party that probably has no interest in starting another war. U.S. military aid to Ukraine has approached its limit, and the initiation of a secondary war front will only add financial strain to the U.S. budget. However, even if the war in Ukraine is not considered, the first choice for the United States is to avoid military confrontation with China. Diplomacy and reconciliation between the United States and China can diminish the likelihood of such a confrontation. Perhaps for this reason, in 1979, the United States officially recognized the One China policy through 3 joint communiques with Beijing and severed diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Although the United States resumed relations with Taiwan after the collapse of the Soviet Union, as mentioned earlier, recent U.S. administrations from both Republican and Democratic parties have taken actions contrary to the One China policy, such as selling military weapons and establishing diplomatic ties with Taiwan. Another approach to prevent war involves enhancing Taiwan's defensive capabilities, while warning the United States against military intervention if China attacks Taiwan. In recent months, President Biden and other top U.S. military leaders have issued similar warnings. Compared to Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping is a more cautious actor. Certainly China plans much more extensively for starting a war in the Taiwan Strait than Russia did when it initiated the invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. This is while the Chinese military is technologically much more advanced than Russian forces. However, Beijing's decision for military aggression depends on factors such as the deterrent power of the United States and the potential level of sanctions. The United States may not have the inclination for a prolonged military confrontation with Beijing for political, economic, or upcoming presidential election reasons. In that case, China, with its advanced weapons and trained soldiers, can conquer Taiwan within 10 days or less, leaving the West to grapple with the aftermath of such an act. However, if the war in the Taiwan Strait turns into a protracted conflict, the damage it inflicts on the world will undoubtedly be far beyond the Russia-Ukraine war.